On this episode of Death by Bunjie, I'm going to show you one of my all-time favorite hunts. Bunjie and I go to Maryland for the early Crossbow season. I like to head to Maryland for the early Crossbow season. I like to get in an early hunt every year, just so that I can work out the kinks. Work out the kinks with the crossbow, work out the kinks with our filming equipment, cameras, anything like that. And that way, when the season finally rolls around here in Pennsylvania, I'm ready, I'm prepared, and so is Bunjie. This hunt was particularly special to me because it's a whole hunt about firsts. It's the first time that I ever hunted outside of Pennsylvania. In fact, it's the first time that I ever hunted outside of my home county here in northeastern Pennsylvania. Not only that, it's the first time that I ever saw a deer in velvet in person during a hunting season. And to top things off, this is the first season where I was using the DSLR as my main filming camera. So join us now as Bunjie and I head to Maryland and see if we can catch some Death by Bunjie action in the Old Line State. I'm ready to try out the crossbow. This will be the first hunt of the year with the Excalibur. Got it all prettied up and gussied up and sighted in last week. I got the phone all hooked up with the directions there, and it's saying about 4 hours and 15 minutes from my current location. So I'm actually gonna boogie down to Maryland and see what we can do. This marks the end of the summer guitar season and the start of the fall hunting season. I got some of the product of the summer guitar season right here in the car. Let's turn that up a little bit. Yeah. Let's get to rock and rolling.
Life is so easy.
Life is easy. Don't make it hard. Now, I had been in the car for 5 hours. The first thing I decided to do when I finally got to Maryland was get some food at one of the local haunts, one of the local establishments down there. Can I have 2 double cheeseburgers, and that's all.
Just one McDouble?
No, 2 double cheeseburgers, please. Now, I got all settled in. I got my gear all unpacked in the hotel room. Got up bright and early to meet my guide the next morning, and he set me up in a great tree stand, a great location, looking out over some great trees, some great oaks, and a pile of corn, because in Maryland you can bait. Now, so far, a lot of what I was looking at looked familiar to me. I was sitting in a tree stand looking over the forest floor, saw some squirrels. The only difference is those squirrels were coming in to sample some of the corn off of the corn pile. In Pennsylvania, we can't use bait. In Maryland, you can, and I was excited about trying out that opportunity as well. The place where I was going to hunt in the afternoon spot was a 40-acre field tilled up and planted with milo. This is the first time that I had ever seen milo. It's basically bird seed that grows like corn. It grows on a stalk. The deer loved it because it creates security and cover for them. They can wade out into these milo fields, and you can't even tell that they are there. But they're able to eat that as well, so it provides food for them also. But it was very difficult for me to hunt. I'm sitting here over a tiny little pile of corn in front of a 40-acre field of milo. The corn doesn't look all that attractive when it's out in the open like that, and you've got that 40-acre food supply right behind you. The deer were hanging out in there. For me, it was a lot like fishing at a lake. Every once in a while, you'd see a head pop up here and there. Now, at a lake, it'd be a fish jumping here or there, and that might tell you where they are, but generally speaking, there's not an awful lot I can do about it in that milo. And I managed to get one of the greatest shots that I've ever gotten on tape. My GoPro camera was set up as a secondary camera, the old field cam that you might be familiar with here on Death by Bunjie, using that camera clamp that I put together. And that deer was inspecting it. Now, he had seen it, maybe he had smelled my hands on it or whatever else, but he was inspecting it and gave me one of the best pieces of footage that I could have gotten. Now, I've always said on this channel, right from day one, that this is not a channel about shooting big bucks. I don't go to Maryland to shoot a big buck. If I wanted to do that, I'd make the trip out to Iowa or someplace like that. Instead, I'm really looking at experiencing a new place, enjoying the outdoors. That's what I'm interested in. In this particular case, I would have shot that 4-point, except there were some trees still in my way and I really didn't have a clear shot. After he gets done messing around with my camera, he wanders over my way even closer, facing me, coming directly towards me, and he's standing under my tree stand. At one point, I'm eye to eye with this deer, 10 feet away from him, looking down the ladder, looking him directly in the eye. He's looking right back at me, and he can't quite make out what I am. Eventually, he makes his way off around the corner, stomps his foot, and leaves. I suspect he knows something's up, but he's just not that concerned about it. So I didn't get a shot at the 4-point, but later on that afternoon, a doe makes her way in. I'm thinking this is going to be perfect. All of a sudden, she up and bolts. She dashes out into the milo, and I don't know if I did something wrong or what's going on. After just a few seconds, I figure out what exactly the problem was. There was a spike coming her way, and he spooked her off. She didn't want to stick around as long as he was there. And when I say spike, I mean spike. Like one spike. So I end up that afternoon without taking a shot the first day in Maryland. No shots taken, no tags filled, but I'm ready to come back the next day. And that next morning I go back into another stand location in the woods. In Maryland, the season starts at the beginning of September, a whole month earlier than Pennsylvania. And sure enough, the fawns still have spots, or at least many of them do. That's a whole different experience for me, sitting in a tree stand during a hunting season and seeing deer with spots. The real eye-opener for me here is I'm sitting in a tree stand and there are half a dozen deer wandering around at my feet. I don't dare move because I've got 12 eyes looking at me from various angles, and if anybody sees me move, the whole bunch of them is going to leave. By the time they all decide to leave, I'm in a situation where, once again, I've taken no shots, saw some deer, so I feel like I'm getting closer. This is my last afternoon in Maryland. I head back to that tree stand, my favorite tree stand in Maryland, over that Milo field. I'm set up there, ready to see if any action is going to take place that afternoon. Now, wouldn't you know it, here we are on a Saturday afternoon, and what's going on? But behind me, there's a wedding. So I'm thinking, great, I'm going to wrap up day 2, my last day in Maryland. I'm going to wrap it up without taking a shot. Sure enough, that music is playing, the afternoon goes on. Now, the neat thing is, I don't think the deer were that affected by it. They're sort of protected in that Milo, not too interested in coming along the edge where I might be able to get a shot at them, but nonetheless, they aren't necessarily leaving the area. Now, I think my luck is going to change. I'm watching that doe. There's also that 4-point. There's a really good path those deer are going to take through the Milo where they push some of this Milo apart, and hopefully I'll be able to get a shot at that time. That's what I'm banking on. To me, the only question is which deer is going to get there first. I'm listening to the wedding behind me, and eventually that 4-point looks like he's getting into that location. Sure enough, when he finally gets to that 28-yard line in that little gap, I take a shot. Now that buck, he kicks up. He reacts as though I hit him well. He heads up toward that little grove of trees. Now, fortunately for me, my car is also off to the left. I had parked right over there along the road. So I take my time, pack up my gear, get ready to go, and I figure what I'll do, I've texted the guide, waiting for him to come, help me see if we can track that deer. I'll put all my stuff in the car and then just leisurely walk up the road a little bit and see if I see any sign where he may have crossed the road or anything like that. He's heading this way. Well, there's another corn pile. There must be a tree stand around here somewhere. Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's a tough shot out behind that tree stand. Man. Oh, there he is. Look at that beautiful, beautiful guy. Now, that buck may not look like much to a lot of people, but he was king of the forest that day in eastern Maryland. I hope you enjoyed that hunt as much as I did. Make sure you subscribe so you catch all the future episodes of Death by Bunjie. Check our Facebook page out as well so you can stay up to date that way. And until next time, all hail Bunjie.
One more time. Life is easy. said life is easy. Life is so easy.
Life is easy. Don't make it hard.